Hello and welcome to The Entrepreneurial Musician, a coaching service, podcast, and blog preparing today's musicians for tomorrow's realities. This is TEM224 entitled Just Keep Showing Up. Thank you to Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for TEM. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba Mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I wanted to let you know that there are going to be some TEM one-off classes and some sequential workshops coming in January, just in time for some New Year's resolutions. So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited about some stuff that is in the works. So I will, of course, let you know all about them, and you can always keep up to date with everything TEM related at our website, tem.fm. All right, now let's get to the episode. I've never recorded an episode this late before. It is 11:52 p.m. on a Saturday night, but I've got an opening right now, so I'm going for it. What could possibly go wrong? All right, TEM 224, just keep showing up. There is one thing that everyone who has succeeded at anything meaningful has in common. They keep showing up. This goes for people or organizations who are thriving at literally anything needed to succeed as an entrepreneurial musician in today's ever-changing music business. Let's take, for example, networking. I'm sure that you can think of someone in your corner of the music business who seems to have a meaningful connection with just about everybody. Guaranteed, they are always networking and always doing it with care. The person who comes to mind to me right away is my dear departed mentor, Sam Palafian. And everywhere he went, it seemed like he knew everybody. And it was amazing. And I think back to the first time that I ever met him. There's actually a photograph of this do you like that? I was saying photo, and I said photograph, and I paused midnight. This is going to be fun. So there is an actual photograph, as the people like to say, of me waiting to talk to him. Let's see here. This was in 1986. I think I was just about to turn 11, and I am standing waiting to talk to him. He's facing away from me because he's talking to someone else, and my back is to the photo, and my shoulders are slumped because I have just heard tuba playing that I've never heard in my life. He blew my mind, and I'm waiting to talk to him, and he didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And when I told him how amazing he was, he knelt down, and I was the only person in the world at that point. He started asking me questions all about me. He could have just shook my hand and said, "Thank you so much. It's so cool you play tuba," and then gone on to the next person, and it would have been one of the highlights of my life. But he only spent 2 or 3 minutes with me, but he was asking me questions and he was responding to my answers, and he seemed just as excited to meet me as I was to meet him. That was a powerful, and it turns out he ended up becoming like a second father to me, and we were insanely close and worked together and all that. But he wasn't trying to plant seeds that morning in case this 10-year-old in front of him ended up being a professional tuba player who ended up handing off his professional gig to the mentor who wanted to get back into the quintet business when I left Boston Brass. Anyway, but Sam did that with everybody that he met. I've tried to model myself after that, except for PR professionals who reach out, who have obviously never listened to TEM. I'm not very nice to them, but I don't even respond. I'm not mean to them. I just don't. Sometimes they email 3 times and you're not getting a response. But anyway, other than PR professionals who are wasting my time and clogging my inbox with unrelated pitches for the podcast, I try to always model myself after Sam. And the fact that he tried to give every person that he came in contact with that kind of attention is why everywhere he went, he knew everybody. and everybody felt like they knew him. Even if you only spent a minute with him, you felt like you knew him. Those are the kind of people who seem to know everybody. There are other people who play the tuba at a level that you could say was as good as Sam's was, and he was an absolute legend in that department, who did not have that kind of a network that he did. And you could say that it was all of his travel, which it was. It wasn't just one thing, but he was always showing up, always networking, always giving of himself. And sure enough, he knew everybody, and like people would trip over themselves to do things for him because he was the same way. Social media, you build a meaningful following on social media by showing up over and over again and creating value. So many musicians say, all right, it's important for me to get on Instagram. And then they start an Instagram account, and then they post, like, once a day for 3 weeks, maybe 19 times in 21 days. And they're not really getting all that much interaction because everybody starts on Instagram with absolutely zero followers, right? If you have a name, you're going to have 10, 20, maybe 50, maybe more right away. But the algorithm isn't going to be too kind to you. And more importantly, you're not going to be creating too much value for people. The mistake that a lot of people make on social media is that they don't go and seek out accounts to be able to follow. They don't leave meaningful comments, not only trying to drive people back to their own social media presences, but just things that contribute to the conversation, amplifying other people's work by retweeting. Regramming can be a little bit of a different story because some people don't dig that. But you understand what I'm saying, right? If you make an Instagram post about some amazing blog post that you read from somebody else, and then you link to that, or it's hard to link on Instagram, but you tag the person, etc., they guaranteed, even if they've never heard of you, they are going to click on your account. If it's only got 3 posts and you've been around for 5 days, they're probably not going to follow you. But the point is that everybody starts from absolute scratch. You have to keep showing up and provide value for people. One of my friends, Scott Bernstein, comes to mind. He started a fish Twitter account called Yem Blog. Yem is an acronym for a famous fish song called "You Enjoy Myself." Anyway, he started this Yem Blog, and he has created a community. This thing has been around for years and years and years. He created a community to the point where he now writes professionally in that jam band world. I mean, it's like he has created a career for himself, because in the day that he started the Yum Blog Twitter feed, he had 0 followers. That's what everyone starts with. And I should have looked it up before I got on here. It's 5 digits worth of followers. He has a huge percentage of the fish Twitter community that follows him. He's a resource. He also has something called the Yemblog conversation. He has a hashtag YemBConvo every Friday, and each Friday he shows up 52 Fridays a year. I almost said a week because it's midnight. 52 every single week. He has a question that the community responds to. Some weeks he might get 30 responses. Some weeks he might get hundreds of responses. It depends on the question and etc. But he has built a community. He has helped people to meet one another. He has helped to bring like-minded people who want to celebrate the music of the same band together. And so, of course, he has gotten himself traction because he has created value. He did not do that in a week or two. And his social media instincts, I'm sure, were quite good at the beginning of that. But it's not even that you don't have followers. It's that you don't have a voice for the account yet. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to keep showing up over and over and over again. Content creation. This, of course, goes for content creation as well. YouTube videos. Until you figure out the lighting, you don't know what I have lights here, which is why the video looks like, pretty good, but I don't, if I was making like really, really, really great videos, I would need different lighting. I would need more lighting. My rig for the videos, and I'm going to talk about podcasting next, it's changed quite a bit. You don't need great videos, or you don't need great equipment to make great videos or great podcasts. You need really remarkable content, and then you fill in everything else. But you don't know what you're doing for lighting or editing or a mic or even like your voice for the content. When you first start, if your voice doesn't really change, like between your first video on a YouTube channel and your 600th video on a YouTube channel, that's weird. Like, I don't care how much traction you have, that's just strange. And that sounds really boring and not a fulfilling, part of your career personally. Like speaking for myself, Will Houchin, who is one of our partners here at Pedal Note Media, he has this amazing. He's who puts together the videos for TEM. He's incredible at. He's a music teacher, a young person's music teacher. I believe he's at elementary level right now. And he makes these videos that are incredible over the summer and back in the spring when the pandemic and the online school thing was new. He was making these incredible videos, and he's got a puppet that talks, and he incorporates, like, there's a video that he features from YouTube of a different artist at the end, but all these things, and he got really good at editing these things. He got better at lighting them. I mean, there was just everything got better. The first one, my son flipped out and was like, he was requesting Will's videos. They got so much better as he kept showing up. Not just what he was pulling off, but what he was trying to pull off. That's the key. You need to keep on showing up. Podcasting, your setup, boy, the setup that I have had for TEM, or that Lance Leduc, my other partner at Pedal Note Media, and I have had for the Brass Junkies, has changed over and over and over. We've used 4 different online platforms. We have recorded onto a device here. It's like, like a 2 different physical devices over the years. We have had various people edit it. Sometimes at times I've put the episodes together for TEM. I mean, it's like, and right now it's Will doing it because he's also doing everything changes. Everything changes. Also, the Brass Junkies, like, our download numbers when we first started we're good for a podcast that had never existed before, because we intentionally interviewed some really famous brass players, and so we got but in general, like, our numbers were pretty stagnant for a while because we just didn't have, and Patreon, we didn't start Patreon the day we launched. We shouldn't have, because we would have had nobody, right? So those, like, the download numbers, the Patreon numbers, are all going up slowly but surely. And the show has kind of gotten a rhythm, like what we do, how we do it, when we do it, etc. But that voice took a long time to get. For Miles Davis once famously said, "It takes a long time to sound like yourself," and that goes for podcasting. That goes for the next thing I'm just choosing random things, composing and arranging. Boy, does it take a long time for a lot of composers to sound like themselves, a lot of songwriters to sound like themselves. And yeah, but you got to keep showing up, right? That is the key. You got to keep showing up. Here's the thing to remember too, is that everybody encounters problems. Check out TEM134, which I will link to in the show notes. I always include all links that I mention on any episode are always at tem.fm, and you can click on show notes. You can also go to tem.fm/search, and you can search for any topic that'll hit the TEM blog. That hits the show notes page. That hits absolutely everything. That's a good resource there, because there's a lot of stuff up on that website now. But Seth Godin's The Dip, I did, by the way, that TEM134 is a book report. So, and I could not recommend reading the actual book any more highly. But that TEM134 is like a good, 30 or so minute, Cliff's Notes version for musicians of that book. That one of the things that book is about is not quitting when things get hard, which is when everyone quits. And that's going to happen if you keep showing up. But that's when the value and the magic happen, are when it gets hard and you get through to the other side. That's what that whole book is about. It's a really powerful book. I think it's only like a 4-hour listen, if I remember correctly, on the audiobook Oh man, I can't recommend that and Lynchpin, which I'm listening to again. I think this is my fourth time through Lynchpin, which you're going to hear some episodes coming up with some quotes from Lynchpin because those two. I think Lynchpin is my favorite Godin book, but the Dip is probably right behind it. So, but yeah, it's going to get hard. Don't quit when it gets hard. The last point I want to make is that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and we're also in the middle of some of the wildest political times, not just here in the United States, where a lot of my listeners are, although I do have them all over the world. But it's just an insane time globally right now, pandemic and non pandemic speaking. Be patient with yourself if you need a break, but keep showing up over and over again, and you will get traction guaranteed. Everybody who has gotten traction, everyone who's had impact, and income always follows impact, has just kept showing up. They just always keep showing up. So do that. Thank you to everyone for listening, subscribing, leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get TEM, and simply for your attention, the most valuable commodity any of us have to give. TEM is produced by Will Houchin and is a part of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. The theme music for TEM is played by Ben Barron, Rich Kelly, Daniel Lapel, and myself, Andrew Hitz. For show notes, the TEM blog, and to learn more about TEM coaching, please visit our new website, tem.fm. You can also find out about those upcoming workshops and classes that I am launching in January, which I think you're going to dig. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And please subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. And that's going to do it for another episode of The Entrepreneurial Musician.